People, people. Housing, housing. It's happening, people. I just want to welcome you all to a really special edition of Trends in the Housing Market. It is me, Mike Martins, broadcasting out of Merritt, BC, the country music capital of Canada. And today is June the 10th or June the 11th, depending on what time you're watching this. If you're in the Southern Hemisphere in the Commonwealth, well, it's wintertime there now. And I want to start off the show just by doing a quick plug of myself here. Rants and Lifestyle, I'm going to start commencing it on... I'm going to start commencing Rants and Lifestyle every Friday night around 9 p.m. late. So it's 9 p.m. It's late for people watching out east. So if you guys want to watch, tune in. This last week that passed, where we were talking about climate change and how we pretty much came up with the conclusion that it is, well, we came to the thought that it's not man-made. It definitely can't be man-made. It's something that has been happening in recent recorded history, because, I mean, history goes way back. Anyways, Trends in the Housing Markets, June 11th. I want to thank you all for joining me. And I'm getting flooded with messages. I'm even getting big outfits sending me messages and saying, hey, I'm from this channel from San Diego. Can you read our story? Really? From news this. And then another person, hey, I'm from this news agency out in Amsterdam or something. Can you read our story? I'm like, wow. Okay, sure, yeah. And so don't forget, just keep sending me links and stuff if you guys want me to read them, or if I could have the time to sift through them all and see what's out and about and what's happening in the whole spectrum of the housing market. And I'm going to go ahead, and this article was published 45 minutes ago. And I want to read this to you guys because it's called After the Bubble Burst. It's almost like nobody, people that are in this situation right now or preparing to enter the situation or trying to get out of the situation that they're in right now with the housing and what's happening with housing, it's almost like they didn't exist or they never were on Earth, on the planet, in 2008, in 2007, 2008, and they saw what happened in the United States. The sad part of it is like I said, it's almost like I could understand if we had 5 different planets we colonized, and, oh, I wasn't on Earth when that happened. Damn, that happened in 2007 and 2008. No, I was on Mars the whole time. I get it. Then that's a good excuse for not knowing what happened in the United States in 2007 and 2008 when it partially crashed and it was bailed out by the taxpayers. Blah, blah, blah. We're not going to get into that. Let me just wet my whistle here. Anyways, so this article was just posted 40 minutes ago, and I'm going to read it to you guys because it's really good. America's housing bust created both winners and losers, and the homeowners have been the biggest losers. Last year, the rate of homeownership in the U.S. hit the lowest point since the 1960s. So who are the winners? This episode of Reveal takes you into the world of people who are still profiting from rent-to-own investors in Detroit to President Donald Trump's best friend and real estate mogul. Reveal's Aaron Glantz looks at the national home rental empire that Trump's friend Tom Barrack created from the ashes of foreclosure crisis. Barack is good at profiting from others' misery. His business model is based on fact churning cycle of plenty, fees, and eviction notices. Having made millions from single-family rentals, Barack began leveraging his profit by bundling the homes into giant mortgage-backed securities. And that's where the United States went wrong with this whole mortgage-backed bad securities. They know they were no good, but people still followed it and believed that it was a good. Anyway, inventive financial product similar to what many remember as a catalyst of the housing crash. Another lucrative business model that's gained new momentum from the housing crisis is offering land contracts to would-be home buyers. These often predatory contracts promise a pathway to ownership for people who can't get traditional mortgages. So they're always praying, or they're always on the lurk for the people that can't afford it or the people that don't qualify. And it's really sad because those are the people that want it the most, you know? It turns out that land contracts are nothing new. They're a big part of a story of housing segregation in America. Host Al Linston talks to a brother and sister who grew up in Chicago house that their parents bought on contract. Michigan's Radio Sarah Hullett brings listeners to ground zero before the land contract business Detroit. After the housing bubble burst, tens of thousands of homes in the city went into foreclosure. Investors snapped up the vacant, deteriorating properties and now offer contracts on them with low payments. But there can be devastating surprises waiting for the buyers, who are responsible for all repairs, maintenance, and can lose their investment overnight. So, this is called After the Bubble Burst, and you can listen to it here. It's basically so I'm gonna it's a long thing. It's about an hour long, and someone's I saw this when I was looking for housing thing, and this was posted 50 minutes ago, 60 minutes now if you've been watching me for the last 10 minutes. And After the Bubbles Burst, please listen to it. It's from June 10, 2017. It's new, it's fresh, just hit the scene, and it basically is a reminder to most that forgot, you know, the struggles of what so many people went through, especially the working poor. Let's continue. The cost of buying $1 million home in Canada has dropped by over 20%. Keyword: home. The cost of buying $1 million home in Canada has dropped by over 20%. And can I tell you why that the keyword home needs to be addressed? It's not a mansion. It's not a farm. It's not an estate. It's not a plantation. It's not a gigantic ranch. It's not, there's many things that cost $1 million, but homes shouldn't be $1 million. Mansions, estates, ranches, like I said, plantations. I could see that being $1 million, but a home? No. That's where we went wrong, is people buying homes for $1 million. I would gladly pay $1 million for a plantation or a ranch or a mansion, not for a home. This is correct wording here. Home. $1 million home. Why don't people wake up? Last time I checked, $1 million is still $1 million. It's very hard to obtain $1 million just like that. Wow, look at that house in the middle of nowhere. That's so cool. One of the most commonly asked questions we get is, how can so many Canadians buy such expensive homes? Again, home, not plantation. Many American readers are often confused and think our income levels are substantially higher. Had Buddy call me from Florida. He's like, yo, dude, what do you guys have 50, 60, 70, 80 bucks an hour up there? Is that, like, what's minimum wage, like 40 bucks? I'm like, no, it's like 12 bucks, 11 bucks. They're like, oh, okay, but why are houses $1 million? And I explained to them what's happening and what's been happening. So many American residents, that's not it. Over the past decade, the cost of carrying a mortgage on $1 million home was reduced in Canada. Incomes didn't rise for many Canadians, but the cost of carrying a mortgage on $1 million home fell into their range. Cost of carrying a $800,000 loan is 22% cheaper today. Free money, low interest rates. Money becomes devalued. Banks don't pay you interest rates on your savings anymore because there's no more value in it. The monthly cost of carrying $800 large loan is over 22% cheaper today than it was just a decade ago. Using the Bank of Canada BOC average annual 5-year fixed mortgage rate, $4,743 would have been your monthly payment for just a portion of the loan in 2006. This doesn't take into account taxes, insurance, maintenance fees. As of 2016, the number fell to $3,699, almost 4 large. A 22% decrease. Econ 101 Masters would say that this is awesome. People are getting their money cheaper. Keyword, people are getting their money cheaper. I like the early 80s, the late 70s when interest rates were 13%, but a house was 30 grand and you could pay it off in 2-3 years. And it motivated you not to buy a boat and 3 other cars and a villa. Why? Because you wanted to pay down that crazy mortgage payment, that crazy interest financing charges you're paying. Why do you think so many people paid off their homes so fast back in the day? So they could get out of debt? No. So they don't pay these crazy finance charges. You know what I'm saying? So, not exactly because the homes cheaper, not exactly because homes are an emotional buy. People will pay the most they can afford. So here's what people would pay. Estimated monthly payment for $800K mortgage loan. Yep. So someone just commented here. Feel free to comments in the comments section. Someone said when things get normal. John said that. And then Single Dad said, can only imagine what our kids will be paying. You know what? I think there's going to be a reset sometime. My son's going to be 3 in a week or two, and I think it's going to be a huge reset by the time he gets to my age. So this is what people are paying. See that? $800K mortgage. Back in the real times, the real days, or the real around this time here in 2006, you pay almost 5 large. 5 large, almost 5 large. That's what you're supposed to be paying on an 800 large, 800K mortgage, 800 large, whatever you want to call it. Now, it's $3,600, almost 4 large. So you put insurance and property tax, you're probably $4,200. So money's become cheaper. More people are taking out debt that they can't afford. Because if interest rates, like we've been talking about on this channel for the last 3 years and 4 years, if you have a variable rate or you got a bunch of credit cards that are prime plus 2, prime plus 3, prime goes up, you're toast. And if you watched last week's show, I was discussing how most Canadians, have less than $200 in their bank accounts. And yes. Payment at annual BOC's average annual 5-year fixed mortgage rate. Source, BOC Better Dwelling Calculations. Most people just walk into a bank and ask how much they can afford and find out they're richer than they think. On paper. Rather than the cost of buying being reduced. Exactly. And so people are going for cheaper financing instead of fighting over cheaper prices. But you can't when everyone is, you know what I'm saying? When everybody is bidding on homes. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, okay, somebody has a question they're asking here in the comment section. They're saying, if you had the money to buy now, would you or wait? You see, I had the money to buy myself if you watch my Living the Dream series, but I didn't buy in a bubble. I bought a house for $260,000. Watch my series. It's different. The house is just, everyone that watches the show is like, I didn't buy in a bubble. I bought 2 hours away from a major city. I'm outside the city. I went back to the city the other day to do some business in downtown. Man, am I grateful. God, I love you, Jesus, because I don't really want to go back. I'm enjoying this living out in the country, small town, building my business. Watch that show too that I'm doing. And anyways, let's continue here. So for people joining us right now, I'd like to thank you for joining. There's a lot of people now joining us, and don't forget to include your chat if you want to chat, live chat. Most people just want so being numbers reduced. A good number of buyers use this expanded room to pay more for the same type of home. This has led to bidding wars. Okay, that's what I just said. Sorry. This led to bidding wars becoming the norm. So basically, they're using the bank's money to throw around to look like, hey man, I could add 100,000 on that, you know. And how are you gonna pay it back, Jimbo? Because buyers could afford to pay more to secure the home they want. If you're friends with a realtor, ask them how many times they've heard their clients say, "Oh, I guess we can't afford to pay a little more." That's the problem right there. And this is likely resulted in inflationary pressure on home prices rather than getting a discount on interest paid. Average interest rate drop. So Max Kaiser, I don't know if you guys, and Peter Schiff, they've been talking about this graph right here. They've been talking about this for the last 5 years. How money is becoming more and more free. And the problem when this happens, the people with savings, with actual money, don't make off their bank. Because back in the day, okay, I'm talking about back in 2004, 2003, $1 million in your bank account, in a high interest regular bank account, would pay you 4.5%. That's 45 large per year off $1 million. So somebody here, Ivan Gorbals. So you had so much apocalypse videos about the Vancouver, and now it's growing again, huh? People who trust you are losing money. You are a bad guy, Mike. Okay. Goodbye. I don't mind people criticizing, but when people basically want to tell me that I am basically misleading people, which I'm not, is not nice. Because I'm just reading articles that what they're saying here, and if you think you're losing money by not buying into the housing market and you want to listen to Ivan, whoever that guy is, go ahead and listen to him. But this is money getting cheaper. Back in the days, $1 million would get you $45,000 off of savings, just a regular savings account. You know what I'm saying? Then John K says, "You're not a bad guy. You say it like it is, the truth." Dude, I'm just reading articles and what's happening, you know, and I'm just kind of putting my own little spin on things, what people, my point of view, my experience in life. I know I'm only 39 going on to 40, but I have some experience. I've been to everywhere and I've seen. Anyways, let's go continue here. If you are friends with a real ask, so home prices, so this is it. I could afford to, well, I guess I could afford to pay a little more. Back to what I was saying about people throwing money. This has likely resulted in inflationary pressure on home prices rather than getting a discount on interest paid. So average rate drop, here it is. People can get lower rates. These were BOC's average 5-year fixed mortgage rates, which is relatively high compared to the market rate of many mortgage. Recent broker channels have been offering variable mortgage rates at 1.75% interest. So that's pretty low. This is insanely low. Rate is below inflation, and you can result payments as low as $2,855 for 800 large. Buying $1 million home can actually be as cheap as renting in some parts of Vancouver. So buying $1 million home is actually cheap as renting in some parts of Vancouver. It's true. It's very true. I think the place that I left, I had a little 3-bedroom townhome in like kind of a gated community. I think the 3-bedroom right now is at $2,400 or $23.50 for rent. After I left it, that's where they were renting it out for. And then it says, buying $1 million home can actually be as cheap as renting in some parts of Vancouver. It'll be interesting to see if home buyers take the variable bait to keep buying. Many Canadians didn't start earning more money. Ding, 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 ding. Our prices, our income has decreased substantially. I remember when interest rates were higher in the early 80s, people buying power. People would be making $4.50 an hour or something. But the buying power in the early 80s was very powerful. You could go really far with $4.50 in the early 80s. If you go back to the 50s and 60s, your buying power of $4.50 was incredible. Okay? So let's see what it says here. Many Canadians did start earning more. Did Canadians start earning more? No. So this contributes to the support of higher home prices. However, a good portion of buyers could not afford the same size mortgage 10 years ago. Exactly. Since Canadians can only secure a 5-year fixed term, as opposed to the U.S. that has 30-year fixed. Every 5 years can mean rolling the home affordability dice for locals. It's like rolling the dice, guys. Are rates low enough to survive the payments at the end of your mortgage term? We'll find out. So this is a very powerful article. Back to basics again. Back to basics. And is this a bad article, or is this article trying to warn people what's really happening? I can't see that I can't even find an article. Housing is good. Buy a house now in Vancouver before you lose. It's hard to find those kind of articles, and when you do, it's always these third-party stories that lead into ads telling you buy now and attend this seminar, buying power, blah, blah, blah. So a lot of people, it's really hard to find, interest rates are super low, get more money. It's always the downside of what's happening because people need to be aware of what's happening. So there's a lot of comments here. The Ivan guy, he has tried to bash me several times in the past. He is just an unrealistic, biased Russian immigrant, was living in Alberta, lost his job, probably a lot of money. Mr. Robot's here, thank God. Hello. Okay, so then he moved to Toronto and got his land and immigration papers, thinks he knows everything, and is heavily invested in the Toronto housing market. Looks like he owns a condo, Bib. That's what the realtor told me before they all gone, prices will go higher. So yes, so keep commenting below, and I'll get to your comments in a few seconds here. So there's two things that are contradicting in this article here. Let me just wet my whistle. Happy Saturday and happy Sunday, wherever you're watching this. Thanks for joining me. China's massive international real estate buying spree is officially dead. China's massive international real estate buying spree is officially dead. I had to say that twice because I've heard this in the past probably 13 times. That's beautiful architecture. Lots of history. Looks like China's capital controls are legit working this time. In January, one of our writers claimed that China's new capital controls would cause capital shortage for mainland Chinese buyers. Shortly after, he observed the capital flow reversal at the State Administration of Foreign Exchange SAFE and claimed inventory would flood certain markets. I had my doubts, but 5 months later, it looks like he's right. China's capital controls have led to sustainability, less money leaving the country, and the markets. Mainland China buyers flooded have no idea how much their homes are worth anymore. China's FX reserves hit a 7-month high. China's foreign exchange reserves rose another straight month, according to SAFE. Total reserves hit US 3.052 trillion at the end of May. In the US, 23 billion increase from the month prior. This is a 0.77 increase and a 7-month high. Safe claim that the last month that the reserve exchange will be balanced going forward, and the market appears to have followed through. This means a lot of things, but most important, it means money isn't leaving the country in significant quantities it was last year. Because this is a good thing, because they're putting in measures. They're putting measures into place because China was headed towards huge chaos. They're headed towards, they had to close the floodgate. China was pretty much bankrupting themselves. It was almost like a runoff on their reserves. All the wealth in the country was just leaving and parking in San Diego, San Francisco, Vancouver, Sydney, Melbourne, Auckland, London, Toronto. They were parking their money, Seattle. I can mention 45 other places, but I only have an X amount of time in this show, so I can't sit here and mention places for the next hour. So, people are commenting here. Once China stops buying here, the party's over for the housing market. And that's what I've been saying for quite a bit, and that's Mr. Robot saying that. Townhouses are going way overpriced. So somebody was asking me, or I was telling people, I don't know if you guys remember this, when that whole tax went on the expensive homes and stuff, and I said that once those detached homes they will dry up. This is what I said. It will dry up, and a lot of investors are going to start to jumping to cheaper properties, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and townhomes. 1-bedroom condos, 2-bedroom condos, and townhomes, and micro units. People are going to start jumping on those. And it looks like that's what's happening right now in Toronto. But there's another article up here that's contradicting what I said. So, bye-bye. What housing crisis? Uber luxury properties sizzle in cooler market. So, what I said was somewhat wrong. So, I thought a lot of the detached homes would eventually cool down, lose a bit of value, and everyone would jump on the smaller stuff. But I guess I was kind of wrong according to this article. But you guys are out east in Toronto. You guys could comment here what's going on in Toronto, Oakville, Mississauga, Brampton area. Anyways, it's a tiny slice of Toronto's overall market, but luxury real estate is on fire, with the 62.5% increase in Toronto area properties selling for more than $4 million. $4 million. And that housing that housing foreign buyers tax, it hasn't slowed them down at all. Okay, guys. $4 million, okay? It's not even a mansion. If they're referring to this house, it's a one-car garage. It's not even a mansion. I don't even think Shaquille O'Neal would live in that. That's not a mansion. $4 million? Heck, my front yard's bigger than that. My house is probably even bigger than that. Let's continue. This 1990... Okay, here's the... Okay, here it goes. Okay, here we go. This 1995 Spanish-style bungalow... Let me see that. Okay, it's a bungalow. In Rosedale was on the market for $5 million. It features heated floors, a library, and parking for 6 vehicles. Ha! I got parking for 3, 6, 7, 8, 9 vehicles on my property. 9. And I paid $260 for my house. They are not like the rest of us. They are not troubled or distorted by the weekly or monthly dips and spikes in the Toronto housing market. Buyers of luxury real estate have a deeper understanding of the long-term value in the market, or they simply don't have to look at the prices carefully, say realtors specializing in high-end properties. So, yeah. These intelligent people, and they have to believe There has to be an economic shift before there's going to be a housing correction, said Barry Cohen, the RE/MAX Realtron, who specializes in selling high-end homes. It is a tiny slice of Toronto's overall market, but super luxury real estate has stayed hot even as the chill has settled over lucrative categories. If only a few weeks, the region's blazing property market went from hot to what? For many sellers and their agents, appears to be cool blue. The shift is being attributed to a large part of the April 20th provincial announcement of market claiming measures, including Vancouver-type foreign buyers tax. Okay. This $8 million Winchcombe Park Century home has a library, underground sprinkler system, and 9 bedrooms and bathrooms and parking for 10 cars. I still have 11 bedrooms. Anyways, I'm sorry, guys. I'm not trying to brag. I'm just watch my series, Living the Dream series, and I promote people. Promote people to leave the city, leave the major cities. It's a lie. It's a conspiracy. That's what I believe. I believe you don't need to be bigger. You don't need to be part of the grand scheme of things to make it in life. You don't. You don't need to have a Tim Hortons right 3 feet down the road from you to survive. Because if you live outside the city, then you could have a car, and you could drive to the Tim Hortons drive-thru and park your car, talk to people in the parking lot, hang out at night, this, that, people racing their cars. Yeah, you see? So if you want to live 3 feet away from the Tim Hortons, you could walk to the Tim Hortons. But if you want to live 2 kilometers away from the Tim Hortons, then you got your car. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. You know what I'm saying? Anyways. Okay, let's continue here. But even before Premier Kathleen Wayne introduced a 16-point fair housing plan, agents say the market was simmering down. The 33% year-over-year price growth in March was symptomatic of the double-digit increases that were never sustainable, said Cohen, the top RE/MAX agent for Toronto properties, over $3 million since 2012. He thinks that, like in Vancouver, Toronto chill is temporary. If you look back to Toronto, running between 5 and 7% year after year since 1996, 10% is an outstanding market that maybe that's what we're going to come back to. Not 20%, not 30%, he said, which still means the real estate is going up. So what Buddy's saying is going to plateau. So it went, then plateau. It's flatline. You know, when you get a heart attack, you flatline. He believes it's going to plateau, and it's going to go with inflation slowly, a couple of percent every year. So it's not going to come back down, according to this guy. It won't come back down. It's just going to plateau, and it's just going to just simmer, 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 simmer. Okay. New Zealand housing market overhauled. Could go bust, says Goldman Sachs. I have that article here, right here. So I'm Peter Van. I'm on your team, bud. The article's already lined up way down the list. We'll get to it soon. So let's get to this. So yeah, let's move along. Let's head back to let's. I've been touching on Seattle right after that whole thing that happened in Vancouver. Vancouver couple evicted from tiny house. Yeah, I read that article, by the way. Thanks for commenting there. Soon, Seattle's tech boom will not explain its housing crisis. So this is from The Stranger. Stranger's a local newspaper that's basically more of like a rebel media. Like, they kind of get to the point, and let's get to it. Luma Condominiums, the first luxury condominium tower to be built in this area since 1982. A luxury condo in this area, first time since 1982. Different Strokes were on TV. Silver Spoon or Green Spoon or whatever. Yeah, it was a different time in 1982. Duran Duran and Billy Idol were out. Anyways, the thing you have to really understand about Vancouver, BC housing crisis is the inflation of housing prices was, until very recently, entirely blamed on the standard supply and demand and dynamic excited by the city's beauty. Finance was completely out of the picture, and the reason for this is because in the orthodox economics on which the standard supply and demand dynamic is based, money is neutral. Even the leftist economist Paul Krugman holds this position in a matter of money and debt, which makes sense because that's the kind of training he received as an economist. Somebody's in Toronto. Come on, Steve. What's going on in Toronto? Was I right? I can't find articles. Have people jumped off the homes, the detached homes, and jumping onto the condos and the 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms and smaller investments? Has that happened? Comment, Steve. Let me know if that's happening. Because that's what I predicted a few weeks ago. Once the tax went into place, detached homes, not luxury homes. I like they don't... See, if it's a mansion, they'll call it a mansion. Because it's a mansion. So what they do is they prep it up and call it a luxury home. What does it mean? Because it has a hot tub in the backyard? Is luxury? Or you got some ceramic somewhere? Or some marble flooring? If anyone knows the difference between luxury home and mansion, comment below. Let me know. At present, Seattle is using these same bad tools, which did not die with the monster they created in 2004-2007 housing bubble. To make sense of its housing market, this is why the focus has been on what is exciting local demand. The tech boom and the attractive city. I know of only one local political figure, Carrie Moon, who is talking about finance and speculation seriously. Even Kashmant Swant, who is an economist, doesn't meaningfully factor into her policy prescriptions for housing. Lisa Herbo totally stuck the tech boom demand. Model is Mike McGim. Okay, this is all... okay, here we go. Seattle's the new medium price for single-family house is $729 large. An extra $7 large from the month ago, up 13.7% from a year earlier. Huge. Huge. Yes, 1982. I'm making you guys feel old. 1982 AD, to be correct. Okay, let's go. In our cities, politicians and policymakers continue to ignore the many form and pressures of finance in their picture of housing market and investment. Of course they're ignoring it. Why would they tell? Why would they fix it? This is the way for them to get, for the city to get this fake wealth quick. We will reach the point that Vancouver, BC reached 3 years ago. So everyone's like fighting or working to get to this point, to get to this make or break dire decisions where the whole entire population leaves the city because they can't live there anymore. Okay. Mike Martins, this is correct. However, condos and townhouses are only selling because that is what is affordable. End of story. Thank you. Imagined source of demand can no longer explain the vertiginous state of home values. I don't even know if I said that right. My prediction is we will reach that point in a year from now. So if you want to invest in Seattle, they're guaranteeing here. Look at this, man. Seattle's new medium house price family is $729 large. An extra $7 large from a month ago, up 13.7% from a year earlier. I think if you want to gamble, if you're watching this and you're looking for places to roll the dice, because I do talk about cities that are growing or next cities that might be hit by the housing market or the housing wave that I call it, the tsunami. Once that Vancouver, once the Vancouver tax went in, I predicted that the tsunami is going to go east to Toronto. It's going to bypass all the other Canadian cities. And I was kind of right on that. And I said it was going to go down to Seattle. And I was right on that too. And it's on record. It's on my videos. You can watch them. Okay. The problem is with condos is that they don't really have a community feel. I drive for a living. And it's extremely different to get around between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. and 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. Yep, Montreal too. They get double digits right now. And I've been last week's show, we're talking about Montreal, and it's on fire. Montreal's on fire. I thought Calgary and Edmonton would be, but I was wrong because the article said, come on down and invest in Calgary and Alberta. Calgary and Edmonton, Alberta. All right, let's keep going here. Seattle's tech boom. And this one was sent to me from Chicago. Somebody living in Illinois sent this to me. Report: for minimum wage workers, affordable housing is out of reach. Yeah. Yep. STP 37, terrible. Montreal will soon have both French and Asian signs. Street signs. Oh, okay, yeah. Report: for minimum wage workers, affordability is out of reach. Now, I want to read this and share this article with you guys because I like the state of Illinois, but I want. There's in the first sentence. I want to break it down for you guys. Watch this. It's right here. According to the National Low Income Housing Coalition's Out of Reach reports released Thursday, those earning minimum wage in Illinois are likely to pay more than 30% of their incomes for rent. 30% of their incomes go to rent. That's actually really good in standards in comparison to what's happening in Vancouver. I know some people that are paying 70 points of their income towards rent. I know people that have to work 2 to 3 jobs. I'm thinking if they worked the one job, they couldn't cover the rent. So I know people working 3 jobs. So this is what I want to analyze with you guys. Illinois is likely to pay more than 30% of their incomes. I'm going to do a whole housing crisis show on different cities and how much of their income goes towards rent. Because 30% is actually not that bad in comparison to, I know in Sydney, and it's somewhat minimum wage workers, cleaners and stuff. It's like 65%, 70% of it. And then they start roommating and getting roommates, or they get married, so to make it easier, but it just becomes more hectic over time. All right, let's keep going here. 30% of incomes for an average 1 or 2 bedroom apartment, a financial state called being rent burdened. The state's minimum wage would have to increase more than $12 per hour for these workers to be able to afford housing without being rent burdened, the report finds. You see how Chicago, the state of Illinois, is jumping on this fast? 30%. They're not waiting like Vancouver or Richmond or White Rock or Oakville, Ontario, or Toronto or Sydney or Melbourne. They're not waiting for it to reach 40, 50, 60% of people's income. So these astronomical proportionate amounts. I like how Chicago's addressing this almost instantly before it gets to 30, 40, 50, 60, 70%. This is from WTTW News, Chicago Tonight. Let's move ahead. So apparently this guy is some real estate guru that I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the show. Let's keep going here. Profiting off pain of Trump's confidant cashed in on housing crisis. So this talks about here. Southern California billionaire Thomas J. Barack is the mastermind behind the scheme, founding a company 5 years ago that has taken 31,000 single-family homes off the housing market and calling it the greatest thing I've ever done. So basically, he took homes off the market so they could increase. Oh, look at this, guys! Look at this. This ceiling's collapsing. Makita Edwards says she was holding her infant in the Atlanta house she rents from Colony's Starwood's homes. When the ceiling caved in, the ceiling fell on top of them. They were just little people in this world, Edward said of the colony founder, Tom Barak. Tenants in dozens of homes of the company's largest markets, Atlanta and Los Angeles, told Reveal from the Center for Investigative Reporting similar stories. Most of the homes were foreclosures bought between 2012 and 2015. In many cases, the former owner who lived in the house was wiped out by the housing bust. So a lot of homes were bought and re-rented, and none of them didn't read. It's safety hazard. A county code inspector near Atlanta wrote in his report of a ceiling leak that channeled water through the light fixture when it rained. A month later, the leak continued. I mean, that's death waiting to happen. Barack, 70, is among the winners of the U.S. housing crisis, which washed away the wealth of millions of people. Since 2007, the single-family rental market has added 2 million units. Census Bureau reports even the homeownership rate hit its lowest level since the Vietnam War. Look at that. So, really good article. It dives into Los Angeles. This is like a book. There's an eviction notice. There's Trump being sworn in. They always link Trump to everything that happens that's not good. There's the homes in what markets they bought in. This is a really good read, guys. It was posted maybe 2 days ago. This is what it is. Profiting off the pain Trump confident cashed in. Read it. Oh, so San Diego, California, basically has a cure, a solution, if you want to put it that way. Someone sent me a link. BNN dots. I think I might have this article open. So guys, send me this. Send me articles. If you want to send me stuff on, what do you call that? Instagram. I'm on Instagram. You could add me on Instagram. People add me all the time on Instagram. And you could message me on there. I have nothing blocked on there. Let me see if I could find this here. Let's see here when this was published. No, I think I read this article to be really... Nope, it's brand new. It's June 9th. Canada's housing market on the brink of severe downturn, warns Capital Economics. So let's move this to the front. The hot housing markets in Vancouver and Toronto appear to be on the verge of a severe downturn that could hit the Canadian economic growth, says David Madani, senior Canadian economist and Capital Economics. The uptick in Vancouver home sales is nothing more than a head fake. Okay, while the worsening sales slump in Toronto, much larger housing market points to a correction in prices, said the Madani report. Vancouver home sales in May fell 8.5% from the record peak year earlier, but surged 22.8% from April and were 23.7% above the 10-year sales average for the month, according to data from the Greater Vancouver Real Estate Board. But the uptick was largely driven by low mortgage rates and is unsustainable, said Mandani. Meanwhile, sales of homes in Toronto dropped 20.3% in May from a year ago, while the average home price in the region fell about 6% from April, according to the Toronto Real Estate Board. Continued softness in the Toronto housing market could impact Canada's GDP, said Madini. Well, that's what happens when you start tying homes, mortgage payments, and people's debt to the country's economy. And stop producing, stop exporting, stop manufacturing, stop fabricating, stop actually creating a proper economy. If you don't export, you no longer have a sustainable economy. And if your citizens aren't fabricating and making or drilling or taking out you got troubles. The Toronto accounts for 20% of the national housing market. This slump in sales will hit the national second quarter, the GDP subtracting as much as 0.5% percentage points, he said. A slowdown in the housing sector could create a drag on consumer spending as consumers cut back on household consumption, said Madini. Housing investment will drag on a second quarter GDP growth, he said. We estimate that growth could be as weak as 1% annualized, but even if growth turns out somewhat better than this, the economic outlook for this year and the next appears to be worsening. The warning from Capital Economics echoes similar sentiments earlier this week from the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. One of the main risks facing Canada's growing economy was potential disorderly correction in overheating housing markets in Toronto and Vancouver, said OECD. So basically, something had to happen in Toronto for them to correct the housing market in Vancouver, or to address it, that it's a problem. Such correction would reduce residential investment, household wealth, and consumption, and significantly large shock could even threaten financial stability, it said. Good article. Thanks for sharing it. So, what does San Diego have in mind to fixing their housing solutions?
The cost to rent or buy a home in San Diego continues to go up.
So let's see if they have... I don't want it to get flagged. Some people on the street. Look at that. Interviewing some people. Anyways, let's get to the article, see what it's saying. San Diego's housing market prices are continuing to increase. NBC7 Monica Dean and the Voice of San Diego's explain why and what politicians are trying to do about it. San Diego is facing a housing shortage and is causing rent and home prices to soar. For 4 decades, our region hasn't been building enough homes to meet demand. Many building advocates say it's challenging, but because of environmental reviews, parking requirements, and neighborhood opposition, funding cuts for affordable housing production and preservation haven't helped either. Another problem, incomes haven't kept pace with housing costs, particularly for the working class. Well, San Diego, there's an entire world around you. Everyone's facing the same thing. I'm not dangerous. Man sentenced for killing parents. Okay, sorry. That's another article there. I was just throwing in there and kind of threw me off, you know. The housing crisis isn't just hitting San Diego, California. Thank you. As a whole, in the midst of the housing shortage, which has led to more than 130 bills in state legislature aimed to solving the state's housing issues. Locally, members of San Diego's City Council have put forward proposals to try and combat the city's high housing costs, too. Solutions. Okay, well, if they got solutions, they can maybe share it with what's going on. So someone's telling me that one sold their house in $400K below assessed value, but is gone in 2 days. Yeah, if you're... Basically, if you do sell under... If you're below 400K, people will gobble it up thinking they got a deal, right? And then when the people do comparables, and they're looking at homes, and they're looking at... Okay, hold on a sec. This one sold here for $400,000 less than asking value, and it has a pool. Yours doesn't. Why is that? And then they'll look, and then, well, okay, I got to lower my price on my house. So buddy turns around and says, okay, I'm going to lower it $100,000 or $200,000. Then other buddy selling across the street, well, whoa. These guys are selling less than mine. And my house is I'm asking for more on my house, and it's smaller. You know what I'm saying? So in state of good news, the new article here, New York unveils $20 billion plan to fight homelessness, boost affordable housing. First phase includes $2.5 billion for new construction development. That's good. This is a long article. I'm not going to get into it, but I wanted to let you guys know that there's big cities really putting money into fixing this, because they know if the middle class disappears, and working poor disappears. It just becomes a huge divide, a huge divide, and New York wants to fix that. They don't want to be dubbed as the most expensive city, and then, it's a big city, and that city needs a lot of people to operate. I've been to Manhattan. I've been to all over New York State, Syracuse. I've been to Syracuse, Buffalo, Rochester, Albany. New York State has like 20, 25 million people. It's a big deal. And cities like this need people. They can't leave the state to move to Florida and move to Texas where it's cheaper. And then look what happens to Detroit when a city of 2-3 million people left and a skeleton crew working in Detroit. Wow, so many people commenting. Okay. Let's continue here. Portugal is experiencing price hike. Prices continue to rise in Portugal due to strong demand and lack of supply. Same thing that's happening all over the world. Strong demand and lack of supply continue to push up prices in Portugal, where the housing market recovery is well underway, according to the latest property market survey. Although the headline pace of growth remained constant in March 2017 when compared with February, the survey from the Royal Institution of Conservative Surveyors, RICS, and Confidential Imbrilio points that the price expectations are over the next 3 months have risen continuously since July. So, photo was taken in 2016. Prices are last drop in Portugal was in 2009 when prices dropped 10%. So strong demand. Okay, so I wanted to put this out there because people were talking about the whole election in London, in England, and what's happened with the housing market, because any politician who is a politician that wants to tackle what's happening on this planet, and it's not addressing wars, it's not even addressing military spending, it's not even addressing global warming, it's not addressing none of that. You have to address and put on your platform housing affordability. That's the number one discussion on your political platform. If you become or you want to be in politics, your number one key to getting people's attention is housing affordability. So let's hear what happened. The UK election results will create more uncertainty for London property market, affecting values and sales volumes, real estate brokers say. London home builder that develop high-end homes dropped after a hung parliament. Crest Nicholson holding place fell 6.7%, the most in 11 months, and was down 5%, 580 pence at 1:16 p.m., making it the biggest faller in FTSE 350 index. Berkeley Group holding price in the UK capital's building home builder was down 3.4%. So basically, home building companies are starting to lose, people are starting to lose faith in the markets. Housing Minister Gavin Barrow lost his seat as Prime Minister with Theresa May's gamble on calling a snap election backfired. The Labour Party won support after it called for more affordable home building by local government after property values and rents soared. There you go. Like I said, if you want to win, and you're a politician and you want to win, tackle the housing right here. The Labour Party won support after it called for more affordable home building by local government after property values rents soared. There you go. That's all you have to do if you want to become into some political office. That's all you have to discuss is housing. And it said it would suspend the right of tenants to buy discounted properties from the councils. So this article goes on for a long time. It shows you different parts of London. And sales listings in the UK homes are likely to decline as homeowners stay put, adding volatility to a fragile market, Bloomberg intelligence analyst Awana Hanko and Sue Menden wrote in a note. So, very unstable right now in the UK too. And the elections are playing a part in it. Australia's housing market lifts in global ranking. And I wanted to show this to you guys right here. Here I go. This is the graph here I wanted to show you guys. Hot property, biggest 12-month house prices change. Iceland, holy smokes, 17.8% change. Hong Kong, New Zealand, Canada, Turkey. I'm surprised that Turkey's on this list. Malta, Republika Czech, Estonia, Hungary, China, and Australia. The average figure obscures the patchy performance across the country. Earlier figures from research firm CoreLogic put Sydney's annual dwelling value growth at 18.9% over the year to March. Wow. With Perth falling 4.7%, the hot East Coast markets have since started to show signs of slowdown. And I've been talking about this for a long time. A couple of weeks now. Sorry, not a long time. A couple of weeks. For me, a long time is a couple of weeks too. You know, that housing in Australia is starting to cool down. A lot of people, just like in places like Toronto, aren't showing up to those grandiose auctions, and they feel like, you know what I'm saying, and it goes back to the beginning of the show that you missed. It's a house. $1 million house. And that's what it is. It's a $1 million house. $1 million is still $1 million, folks. Maybe you're watching this transmission in the year 2177 and $1 million is like chump change. But right now, $1 million is $1 million. And what I'm trying to wake people up to is that, and I'll say this again, like I said in the beginning, it's a $1 million house, not $1 million mansion, not $1 million castle, not $1 million ranch, not $1 million plantation. It's not $1 million farm. It's a house. And you got a neighbor 2 feet away from you on both sides. And you got neighbors across the street from you. And you got limited parking. It's just a house. Let's keep going. Bubble trouble. Australia's free market housing failure. And you know, guys, when I keep talking about free markets, for the last 3 years, open markets, come in, spend what you can, buy out the poor, buy out the even local rich, buy out the 1% that doctors can't even afford to live in their own cities, buy everybody out. The frenzied development of Australia's East Coast capital is peaking. Household debt is soaring, and the bubble property market threatens to bring down the economy. That's when you back housing to economy. You should back economy to oil, economy to minerals, economy to exports, not the housing. There's a better way to organize residential property, which would involve securing housing as a basic right. Okay? To understand the scale of the current property boom, consider that the number of fixed cranes atop dedicated to residential projects in Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane is greater than the combined total of New York, Boston, Washington, D.C., Chicago, Toronto, Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Phoenix, Austin, and Denver. That's huge, people. That's why I brought this article up. That's how bad it is in Australia. Australia is so bad. You have no idea how expensive it is there. That's how many cranes there are. They have more cranes building housing developments or housing units or condos more than all these cities combined. That's how bad it is. And I feel for my friends down under that are going through this. Melbourne will soon have Australia's tallest skyline, with more than 100 skyscrapers higher than 100 meters planned or already under construction. Fairfax's Ashia Down wrote in February last year, the rush of mostly residential towers is set to double the number of very tall buildings in the central city within just a few years. There's the CQ, Real Housing Price Index. And there you go. You have your, it starts in the year 1880, sorry. And it goes up to basically 2016. Ratio of household debt to disposable income. This is bad. I talked about this Oh, somebody just commented. We have big spiders, snaked, and big debt in Aussie land. Oh, I know. I believe it. Right. Steve the plumber is saying a house is only worth what someone will pay for it, what someone can afford, and quality for. But I see it like this. I don't care if somebody just bought a teardown for $2 million. You know, buying a teardown for $2 million for me, and I said this in the last show, is like buying a 1982 Volkswagen Scirocco in 2017. Like right now, going out and finding myself a new car, and I would buy an 82 Volkswagen Scirocco and paying a Lamborghini price for it. Paying 200 large or 300,000 for an 82 Volkswagen Scirocco. No one in their right mind will do this. Nobody. But they're doing it for housing. And that's what I'm trying to say to you guys. And that's what I've been trying to preach to you guys about. Yo, man, what's up, Brother John? Anyways, that's what I'm trying to preach to you guys. Someone had an 82 Volkswagen Scirocco outside of my driveway, and you're visiting me, and there's a Lamborghini next to it. Here's 300,000. What are you going to pay 300,000 for? No one in the right mind is going to buy the Volkswagen Scirocco 82 for 300 large. Okay, this is what's happening to the housing. And when you see it in that kind of perspective, you start thinking, oh yeah, really? Yeah, because that's exactly what it is. Goldman Sachs, Swedish Kiwi housing markets most at risk of bust. Bank sees 35 to 40% chance of prices dropping in the next 2 years. New Zealand housing most overvalued, followed by Canada and Sweden. I've been telling you guys that New Zealand is... I saw one bedroom rooms, bachelor apartments with a room and a bathroom for like $690,000 American, like $700,000 American. It's like, and someone's commenting here, all the home invasions in Melbourne from the peaceful religion makes people want to live 20 floors up. Someone has said hiking interest rate or interest-only loans and reducing the interest and principal loans, guessing their book are risk-weighted to be investors only. See, a lot of people want to jump into this to be like business people, right? And for me, housing was never a business for me. It was more of a base. Set your base up and then start going out and doing your thing. And have a secure roots placed. So you have a place to call home and a place to get back to, plan, and concoct your ideas, and brainstorm as a family, and have a stable school for the kids, and then you could start working on your projects, just like what I did. You know what I'm saying? Bust ahead. G10, housing markets risk of overheating. So New Zealand's right on top, guys. If you look at this graph, followed by the black here is going down. Sweden, yeah, Sweden's in trouble right now. They're in decline. And Canada's somewhat up, plateauing, flatlining, and then Australia is just below that. So this is the ones at high risk of overheating. So Australia is having this, like everyone's having this problem. And then let's get to some better news. DZIN, a great-looking, affordable housing solution, and nice-looking home, nice-looking lot, little garage. This 160 square meter, not 160 feet, 160 square meter family home in Portugal, completed on a shoestring budget, is met with both high praises and doubt in this week's comments update. Starting small, Portuguese architect José Carlos Nunes de Oliveira built Mami house for less than built a mammy house. I guess is it called a mommy house for less than 100,000 euros, 84,000 pounds, 84,000 p, impressing many Dezen's readers and inspiring some will follow. So look at this. So this is good news that there's people out there. Unfortunately, not everyone was won over by the design. Said, I'm not sure I understand the fuss this house is causing. Many Japanese homes deal with low budget and small sites unequally, or in many cases, a far more refined way. Given the labor-intensive work of concrete, this sounds to me to be impossibly cheap, added the uncertain Tokyo architect. Well, I see in Portugal, they build their houses with poured concrete and rebarb, right? And poured concrete and rebarb is one of the strongest, especially when you're by the ocean and the hot temperatures in the summer. It's really good to have poured concrete and rebarb. It's a lot better than having 2x4s and drywall. You know what I'm saying? So that's more than impressive for that budget. You'd get a cardboard and chewing gum in the U.S. So yeah, I don't think it's overpriced. I think 100. Yeah, you get a bit of land, which is nice. Your little mailbox, and you're in Western Europe. Let's continue. Anyways, guys, I want to continue with one more thing. I've been here for an hour and 11 minutes. Yeah, concrete against termite 2 in hot tropical. So you don't get termites, you get poured concrete and rebarb. I want to recommend a movie. I'm going to start recommending movies at the end of my shows. I really want you guys. I saw this movie twice. This is a really good movie. It's called Night Train to Lisbon. It's really good. I'm not into these drama kind of slow movies. This is really good. And I really, really invite you guys to watch this. See if it's on Netflix or whatever. It's called Night Train to Lisbon, and it's a bizarre movie. It's about this gentleman who's somewhere. I think he's in a library or something. I don't want to give too much away. And some lady leaves her jacket and the book, if you see here. So he takes the train and tracks her down to give her back her stuff. Watch this. It's really good. The story is just... I'm not going to read that because I don't want to give it away, because it gives it mostly away. It's one of those kind of stories that, like, wow, why haven't I seen this? Why doesn't anyone talk about this? Night Train to Lisbon, film review, beautifully shot and packed with big name cameos. Go on Netflix, see if you can watch this. Let me know if you've watched it, comment below. Anyways, guys, I've been here for an hour and 12 minutes. Saturday night, I'm going to go out and shake my butt. I'm joking. I'm just going to go see if the kids are okay sleeping. And don't forget to join me for Housing Crisis Wednesday Hump Day discussion. And don't forget to follow me also on my show, Rants and Lifestyle. Every Friday night, we go off topic from housing. Last week, we talked about global warming or cooling or whatever the name is for this week. Next Friday, I don't know. Think of a topic you guys want to talk about for next Friday. This show will be up in 24 hours for you guys to watch. So if you missed the show, you could start watching from the beginning. Very good comments. Good night, everyone. Good night, Brother John. Good night, Steve the Plumber. Good night, Neil B. The shop's coming along. Watch my series, Starting a Business from Scratch. Good night, John K. Good night, everyone. Thanks for watching. God bless. And big hug to everyone. Good night, Mr. Robot.